Good morning and welcome to the second monthly meeting of the Greenwich Board of Selectmen. Please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to this public meeting of the Board of Selectmen. As the chair, I reserve the right to call upon any person in attendance to pose a question or make comments on any matter that's on the agenda today. There are copies of the meeting's agenda on the table as you come in. Item number 2 on the agenda is approval of minutes from the regular meeting that occurred on March 11th. Do we have any corrections or changes to those minutes?
Mr. Chairman, there is just a spelling error here. Let me see. It's no big deal. I'll find it for you. It's someone's name spelled, but I'll get it for you, Mr. Chairman. 1 second.
Yeski or Siderides, or Cindy Anderson.
Oh, Scott? Is that how you spell Scott? S-C-O-T-T?
I'm trying to think.
Is it maybe it's 1 T?
It's 1 T. Okay.
It is 1 T.
Yeah,
Is it?
I think so.
Okay, then it's wrong. Okay, that's right.
What page was that? What page was that on?
First one. Scott White. Is Scott spelled S-C-O-T-T or with 1 T? Ken?
I think it's 1 T. Yeah.
It's 1 T?
Well, here it's 1 T.
No, I never knew. I always thought Scott was with 2 T's. That's why I was.
I think he's with.
Let
Let me look on my.
Scott Weicker, S-C-O-T-T or 1 T? Then you're right.
Okay, it's correct. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any other corrections? I think the one thing, Kathy, is we were looking at the dollar amount.
Yes.
Is that 269,616 something that we have to verify?
Yes, I think so. I got it as the attorney was running out the door, so I would verify it with the paperwork.
Okay, because we have that highlighted, so, okay, so with that amendment or verification, then there are no other changes? Okay, is there a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
Second.
Without objection, and please, if we can, check the dollars on those worker comp claim settlements, Ben, and make sure that they're congruent. I'd just like to also acknowledge and thank Kathy Sider, who has been serving as our recording secretary over the last several months, in addition to her duty as the recording secretary for the BET and all of its committees. She has been an extraordinary help to us during this time of vacancy, and we want to thank you for helping us and sticking with us in all of our pecuniary details that we have that make our agendas interesting. And again, look forward to seeing you at the BET meetings, as well as a very active member of the First Selectmen's Economic Advisory Committee, for which you've been very successful in putting on several programs. So thank you very much. I want to acknowledge.
Kind words, but it's been a privilege, and we thank you all for having me, take over this for the last couple of months.
Okay, that's nice. Thank you.
Well, it's our pleasure. Thank you. Thanks. And you're welcome to come to the meetings if you find that you're not
Go through the draw.
busy with the BET. I'd like to propose taking an item out of order. So under appointments and nominations, we have successfully concluded the search for a new director of purchasing and administrative services. I first want to acknowledge the work that the Department of Human Resources did, Mary Pepe, Erica Mahoney, and her team, as well as Ben Brannion, who really spearheaded this particular search for a new director. They spent an extensive amount of time going through the various applicants' resumes. They conducted 2 initial screenings. First, the director of HR and assistant director of HR, Mr. Brannion, and then we had the good fortune of a panel that was inclusive of Amina Ahmad from our town law department, since they have an integral relationship to purchasing and procurement, as well as Eugene Watts, who's the Director of Procurement and Purchasing for the schools, who also sat on the panel. That then resulted in a finalist for whom I had the opportunity to meet, and pursuant to our charter and the way we are governed, vacancies in town departments are proposed by the first selectman, but appointed by the Board of Selectmen. So it is this board who ultimately has to make the appointment of the new director. So today I am pleased to present to the board and my colleagues, Mr. Toner and Mr. Marzullo, Mr. Charles Zybeck. Good morning. Welcome. Chuck, as he's known, is currently a senior analyst purchasing for Sikorsky Aircraft located in Stratford. He manages the procurement cycle and vendor negotiations and relationships with various contracts. He has worked on United States military programs such as the Black Hawk helicopter program, and he has successfully negotiated and implemented several multi-million-dollar contracts. He holds a Bachelor of Science degree in Business Administration from Sacred Heart University. We have found that his experience is well suited for this role, and his communication style is extremely collaborative and clear. He was very earnest in preparing for his interview for this position by reading the actual purchasing manual. For those who are familiar with it, it is not exactly the most stimulating reading, but someone who has spent their whole career in this area, I guess they found it of a great interest, and I think demonstrated his professionalism and desire to pursue this job. So it is my great pleasure to propose Mr. Charles Zybeck to the position of Director of Purchasing and Administrative Services at a starting salary of $142,000 annually. The position of Director of Purchasing and Administrative Services is a non-represented, unclassified position allocated to the MC9 salary range in the Managerial Confidential Employees Compensation Plan. The town, in accordance with the town's managerial compensation plan, shall determine future salary considerations. So at this time, I make the motion to appoint Mr. Charles Zybeck. Is there a second?
Yep, there's a second.
Seconded. Discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Charles Blair, welcome. Please feel free to, if you'd like to comment, or you're welcome to, at the podium, so they could get, it doesn't pick up your voice if you're not.
It's being recorded, yeah.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Chuck Zebek. I'm very excited in starting as the new purchasing director for the town of Greenwich, Connecticut. I'm looking forward to the challenge and working with all of you going forward. And again, I want to thank you. I'm very proud to be here today.
Great, well, thank you. Welcome.
Thanks. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Everyone have a great Easter.
Yeah, happy Easter. Happy Easter.
Expose his name.
Nice guy.
We'll make a note of that. Okay, so we'll fix that. So that, thank you. Did we actually move to do that, to take that up out of order? I've just realized we didn't.
Yes.
Did we do that, or am I? We didn't make a formal motion, did we? All right, well, we were supposed to make a.
Can we just back up the tape? Kidding.
So let's just say that we made, all right, let's just clean that up.
Yes. Sorry.
Scandal in the Greenwich
Kidding.
I started to say it, and then I lost my train of thought. But thank you for, we'll reflect that,
We'll vote, yeah.
that we, by unanimous consent, chose to do that to accommodate his, okay, we'll fix the E on that, all right. So, Ken, if you want a copy of the release, since you're the only person from the press here, I'm just looking to make sure I have the right one.
Who cares? I think Leslie's watching her pajamas and all.
Well, that's.
Here, why don't you, there you go. Oh, sorry, Ken.
And he's not to be confused with Chuck Zobek.
That's what I thought, that's, yeah.
Okay, so moving back to the sequence of the agenda items, I'll just go through updates quickly. A couple things. We received, I want to say several weeks ago, correspondence concerning Westchester County's proposed expansion of Westchester County Airport. There were several concerns relayed. The correspondence actually came to us from the village of Rye Brook, who voted a resolution of the Village Board of Trustees on February 23rd, and they were concerned with the proposed changes to the air terminal use agreement. They had requested adjoining municipalities send letters of concern to the Westchester County Executive, Rob Astorino. I did do that. We sent it on March 22nd, and essentially it reads as follows. I'll just cover it. So on behalf of the town of Greenwich, I hereby strongly convey our full support and concurrence with the resolution adopted by the Board of Trustees of the Village of Rye Brook on February 23rd, 2016, expressing concerns with Westchester County's proposed changes to the airport terminal use agreement. And it was attached. I further join with our good neighbor in Rye Brook in stating that the town has deep concerns about the significant and adverse impacts that are likely to result from the numerous changes proposed to the current use agreement. As articulated in the Rye Brook resolution, it is clear that more study and a closer examination of potential detrimental and hazardous environmental impacts must be undertaken before any of the proposed changes are implemented. The town of Greenwich has particular concerns, which it has expressed on the record in the past, about additional noise impacts, increased runway lengths, increased departure gates, flight pattern changes, air quality deterioration, and many others, all of which would be exacerbated by the adoption of the current proposal. Accordingly, I join with our colleagues from Village of Rye Brook in requesting the opportunity to meet with representatives of Westchester County government to engage in a dialogue to ensure that any changes made to the current agreement do not negatively impact the town of Greenwich. Thank you in advance for your prompt and courteous attention. This was sent to the mayor, copied to the mayor of the Village of Rye Brook, Paul Rosenberg, and their administrator, Chris Bradbury. And you should have received electronically copies of it. But I just want to make sure, since it was sent to all of us, I did this to just make sure that we're on.
Mr. Chairman, process-wise, how does that, if they were to affect that, who makes that decision? The airport, like,
The county board of legislators.
and they can do that without,
Yeah, I mean, they operate the airport.
okay.
But there have been like groups through the years who they worked in collaboration with. It sounds to me they're using a regulatory or administrative mechanism to effectuate the change, and that's what I think people are drawing concerns about.
Gotcha.
What does the FAA have to do with this?
I would think they'd have to approve any expansion of the runways and all that.
To increase more flights coming, what's the overall?
I think it would provide them the ability to host flights to longer destinations. So now they are limited because of the size of the aircraft to go, a certain destination. This would allow them to, I think, expand their reach and go further west.
Has our state rule, I mean, have they,
Well,
or
we-
senator, I mean, anybody has?
I sent it along to Representative Florence, and she represents that area and was very involved. I think, the other person will get involved is Senator Blumenthal, who was very involved with this when he was Attorney General.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
The other issue that took place, or other presentation, is that the League of Women Voters completed their RTM study committee report. I believe they had a meeting this week. Barbara Hines starts on Monday, but did her due diligence and went to the meeting in advance, and she said she picked up a lot of information and found it informative. But the report is out. I was given a copy by Ann Weichman, who was part of the study committee, and she acknowledges the input that was given by all the various town officials, members of the Board of Selectmen. And I do not believe, based upon the cursory review of it, they're making dramatic changes are proposing dramatic changes, but they do include a lot of recommendations that I would characterize as improving engagement by the citizenry with the RTM. So that was received. That's number 2 in updates. This one just came in. This came in actually last evening, and it's from Eversource. They're doing transmission work, and they're notifying us. And I'll just read this. It reads as follows: I'm writing to provide notification concerning upcoming Eversource transmission work at South End Substation in Stamford that has potential impact to customers both in Greenwich and Stamford. Typically, the transmission system is designed and constructed with built-in redundancies so that the loss of service from transmission lines or substation equipment due to an unplanned event like severe weather or a planned event like system maintenance or construction will not adversely affect customers. As a result of construction on a reliability project taking place in Stamford, Eversource will need to take equipment in the South End substation out of service for several days between March 28th and April 18th. No customer loss of power is expected from this planned construction activity. As part of Eversource normal operating procedures in preparation for this planned construction activity, Eversource has identified and addressed any anticipated problems on the active transmission lines and substations. For this particular event, Eversource will be working 24 hours a day to reduce the duration of the equipment outages. Work will take place mostly on weekends to minimize the number of commuter rail trains at risk. Dedicated construction crews will be placed on call to help mitigate the duration of an outage if one were to occur. Infrared inspections of key transmission lines have been completed, and construction steps are being planned in sequences in such a way to reduce the duration of any potential customer outages to 4 hours or less. We are not asking that you take any steps at this time. This came from Tracy Alston, our community relations liaison. Ken, if you want a copy of that for your purposes, you could keep that.
Where is the siting council doing up there?
Oh,
Deliberations.
on the application, I believe the citing council has closed the record on, is it docket 461? And the transcripts of the first hearing were released, lengthy document, and we'll await their decision. I mean, it's
Stars.
yeah, we were very clear as to what we prefer. We appreciate the support we receive from Attorney General Jepsen and Senator Blumenthal and others, and we'll see what the outcome. Finally, on Monday evening, we were here for the BET meeting. The BET has acted upon the Budget Committee's recommended budget. It's now a proposed budget to the RTM. There were considerable amendments made to the budget in various areas, in operating, in capital. The results of those will likely be forthcoming from the Finance Department, but knowing that we received the proposed changes several hours before, and having been at the meeting, I would like to publicly express my thanks and gratitude to the BET members who supported the incremental approach to staffing for the fire services. I appreciate their foresight and understanding of that, and respect for the information that was provided to them over the course of many months, and through great work on the part of Fire Administration, Melissa Jones, Senior Management Analyst of the Selectmen's Office, as well as Ben Branyan. So again, thanks to everyone who facilitated that. The second issue as it relates to budget priorities was the proposed acquisition of property on King Street for Gems and Fire. We're very pleased with the support that granted that approval, which we'll be discussing momentarily. I do want to thank those BET members who did support that. I think it's important to note that this is still a very difficult sell. There are many people who still are not supportive of the idea of adding this facility. We were going to be before the Budget Overview Committee on Wednesday night. That's, I believe, March 30th, and I would encourage those of you who support this, my colleagues, I would welcome you to come. Mr. Branyan and I are going to be addressing several questions that were raised on the part of the committee concerning the proposed station as well as staffing in GEMS. So if you can, Ben, is it 7 or 7:30?
7:30.
7:30.
And where?
And I believe it's going to be in the lounge. Let me just check. And that 7:30 in the Mazza room? Okay, so 7:30 in the Mazza room. That really concludes my updates. And again, I want to thank both Mr. Toner and Marzullo for their support in the initiatives that we put forth in the budget. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your efforts.
And finally, oops, I knew there was one other thing. Finally, had the pleasure of attending the 30th anniversary of the Community Service Awards for the Greenwich Public Schools. Again, I just want to publicly thank all of the, or congratulate all of the recipients for their contributions to the community at large. They had a wonderful video this year that allowed the students to express their sentiments about why they did the service. And the video, of course, is going to be on the public school website and will be a tremendous resource for people to see firsthand, in the words of the students, what their public service means. And really, I think, put a good light on the school district. So for that, congratulations to all involved. Kim Eves, who put the video together, and of course, Ernie Fleischman, who started this 30 years ago when he was superintendent. There will be a follow-up reception in April, inviting all of the various recipients to a program here where we will give them an opportunity to share more about their experience and talk to different officials so we could celebrate them. So stay tuned for that. Okay, that concludes updates. Under old business, we have before us the municipal improvement request for the purchase of 4.27 acres at 1241 King Street for the purpose of the Northwest Greenwich Fire Station in GEMS Medic 4 Station. This is before us pursuant to Section 99A2 of the Charter that requires the town to seek approval referred to municipal improvement, MI, from the Planning and Zoning Commission for the acquisition of land. The first step in the process is for the Board of Selectmen to recommend MI to the Planning and Zoning Commission. So,
Can I just, Mr. Chairman, can I just have the record reflect, I'm going to be voting on this issue, but I talked to the town attorney because I'm an employee of GEMS. They wanted me to say that, but in terms of, I am an employee, but they don't see this as a conflict of me voting on the piece of land. I cleared
right.
that.
Thank you.
Sure.
So we have with us Mr. Manelli, Mr. Branyan, who've been working through this. Just to review for the edification of the audience listening at home and for the tape, the memo reads, over the past several years, the town has explored several locations as a potential site for a fire GEMS facility. The town purchased 1327 King Street in 2004 for initial use by GEMS with the long-term intent of using the parcel for a joint facility. It was later determined that the site could not accommodate both services. A funding request of $2 million for the purchase of the land is included in the fiscal 17 capital improvement plan. The BET approved this on Monday evening, March 21st. A portion of the land acquisition cost of 1241 King Street can be offset, in part by the future sale of 1327. The purchase of the land is consistent with the town's plan of conservation and development that was adopted in June of 2009. In that document, there was an action strategy 4.31, which says funding for the new fire station on King Street should be provided. Action strategy 6.29 was the study, the delivery, and management of fire services and facilities. Of course, that's been done ad nauseum for the last several years. The exact acreage will be finalized upon completion of the A2 survey. I believe we have that now, or we're in?
We believe it'll be due by the end of the month or early April.
The survey is anticipated to be completed by the end of the month, as you point out. A Phase 1 and 2 environmental assessment was completed on this property in 2014. 14 or 15?
14.
14. All samples either came back negative or below the Connecticut residential standards. An appraisal of the property conducted in September of 15 has the current market value of the property at $1,625,000. We anticipate the closing to occur, if approved, by the various bodies July 1. If the architectural engineering construction budgets are funded, it anticipates the Northwest Station can be open by the summer of 2019. So, Mr. Manelli?
Anybody have any questions?
Yeah, the property at 1327, how large is that?
It's a non-conforming lot. I'm not sure in the exact acreage, but it's not to the RA6 zone requirements that are in that area. I believe it's like 2 acres.
Do you have any questions? Any comments? Okay, so this will be forwarded then to planning and zoning with the transmittal. So is there a motion to approve the request for municipal improvement for the purchase of 4.27 acres at 1241 King Street?
Second.
It's been moved in second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, item number, under 5, new business. We'll be discussing the Byram Park pool access policy. With us today, we have Director of Parks and Recreation, Joe Siciliano, as well as Superintendent of Building Construction and Maintenance, Alan Manelli. I think it's important to point out that this is something that the BET has placed a condition on, and one of the things that we're required to do is set the fees and usage. And so if we don't do this, then it holds up their
The release of the funds.
condition, which then results in the money not being released to do the work, right?
Correct.
So perhaps you could just take us through just a summary, what's been done, what's to be done, like the timing of it all.
Well, the bids are due back today. April 5th, I'm sorry. So the bids for the pool project are due back at April 5th. It was our intent, once Alan had an opportunity to review the bids, and I put the operational plan together, which this is a component of the pool policy, that we would go to the next available BET meeting, which could be April, to ask for funding to be released so that we can commence with contract for the pool project and commence construction as soon as possible. So the intent was to put the package together, Alan's part and my part, which is the operational plan, and to move forward. So here in front of you today is a copy or a proposal that has been I put together. Been talking with the law department over the last several weeks, which seems to be what people have been requesting. It's a proposal that for access to the Byram pool. It is a proposal that sets a standard of residents taking guests to the pool, which seemed to be in a discussion throughout the whole pool approval process for the funding. But as being the Board of Selectmen, you can set any policy you'd like to and any fee that you'd like to. So this is a proposal that of various people that have contacted me, emails, the discussions throughout all of the budgetary process for last year, and this is a proposal that will accomplish that, but it can be changed if the board so deems that. So basically what you have in front of you is a very simple proposal, which basically allows guest of residence, and there's 2 categories for that, and it's a guest accompanied when a resident, they're accompanied by a resident, or a season pass holder, I should say, and the fee would be $8 for that. So there'd be a season pass holder that would accompany a guest, and there would be an $8 charge for that. Of course, there would be no charge for under 4, and then no charge for the seniors, as we do currently right now. The next category would be a Greenwich resident who does not possess a season pass. They just choose not to have one, but are resident and can prove that at the time of purchase of a guest pass. And they would have to prove that at the location where they purchased the pass, which would be one of the civic centers. And again, that would be $8. Same with the other categories. There'd be no charge for seniors, and obviously there's no charge for children under the age of 5. The last category is a single entry park pass for beach and park only, which currently we're operating under because we don't have a pool. And this would be for anyone else who would want to come in, including a resident or a non-resident, who would want to come into the pool park, to the park beach location, and would not want to use the pool at all. So this is a category where they could come in and just enjoy the park and the beach, and does not include access to the pool, because obviously they can't be accompanied by, they're not being accompanied by, a non-resident is not being accompanied by a residence. So this is the parking standard that we keep at all the locations, since you passed that early on in December, and that's the parking fee. So if you require a day parking pass, it's applicable at Barn Park, depending on whether you have a season sticker or you do not. But obviously, it's the standard that we use throughout the whole park beach system. So it's not too complicated. It's, it speaks to the issue of whether residents can have guests. I've done a little research in some other towns, and both from Westport, Longshore, I'll just talk about that right now. In there, I printed this down on February 8th, 2016, and it says, guests must be accompanied by a Westport hand pass holder, similar to what we have as a hand pass holder. Waveney Park is the same. It talks about guests must enter the pool and be in the company of a valid pass holder. So both of those locations do a similar type of thing. Those are just 2 out of probably 3 or 4 that I looked at, but there are other examples out there of towns doing what I'm requesting that Greenwich do moving forward. So it's just a decision that the board needs to make. We can accommodate the ticket sales at the locations. Those won't start until obviously we have a pool to swim in, depending on the construction schedule. So, but in order to get the money released, the commitment is to have a pool access policy approved by the Board of Selectmen that will be included in the operation plan. That's it. Simple as that.
What's the
No, it should not. That should be. It is restricted because we have internal parking spaces. No, there's no parking signs posted there. Yes.
Construction start. If we follow, you may have said it, but if you could repeat that.
The bids are due April 5th, and we are on the BET agenda for the Budget Committee on April 12th. We have targeted $7.3 million as our limit, and if the bids come in at $7.3 million or less, and the beach pass policy is approved and they accept Joe's operational plan, they'll release the money and we'll be able to go to contract with the low bidder. Construction would start more than likely in the June time period, and probably will take all the remainder of this year and into next year.
Great. I didn't mention in the update, but Joe and I did have a meeting with the Junior League to follow up on what they're proposing to do. They've outlined their campaign timeline, and that's an integral part of this, and it seems well organized, and so that's the other piece of this too, that there's the private
Partnership
part. So there's many pieces of this. You want to say something?
Yeah. Hi, Joe. Wayne, can you first talk about the legality part of this? I mean, being legally defensible before, and then we'll get into my actual specific questions. And I ask because, correct me if I'm wrong, the New Canaan, I believe, I think it was New Canaan, the Board of Selectmen, I think last year, the year before, they passed, I think it was a unanimous vote to open their pool to non-residents and sell a $500 pass or something to offset the expense. And Wayne, I asked in terms of the defensible part, but is Greenwich unique in the sense that compared to other towns, our pool, abuts a natural resource. The other towns, correct me if I'm wrong, are pools of itself, correct?
Well, I can tell you, Drew, that this concept, which I understand you are considering relating to someone from out of town being allowed to come into the pool as a guest of a resident, is not a new concept, and it is not unique to Greenwich. I will say to you...
That I get, but the question, that I understand it's not unique, but it is unique, though, in the sense that the other towns, and I could be wrong, but I'm just checking geographically, their pools are separate. It's not like they're walking into, this is the beach and this is the pool. Their pools are just separate outside a natural resource, right?
Isn't New Canaan's in Waveney Park?
Yes, New Canaan's in Waveney Park, but Longshore, which is at the beach.
Is at the beach?
All right.
And it's
Yeah.
doable in Westport, New Canaan, Trumbull, Southington, Southbury.
And they're all an apple to an apple. It's the beach, and they have to walk by a pool and say you can't go in there, or are they separate? That's
I don't know that for each of them. As Joe had suggested, I know with respect to Westport, I believe that is, well, I'm not sure. Certainly New Canaan, as Joe suggested, is not just a pool. That's different. The other thing that I think is important here is that we are not limiting the ability of folks to come in to the park. And if you go back, which I did, and look at the decision that was rendered by Justice Sullivan in the Brendan Leiden case, what was significant there was not what had been decided by the appellate court, which talked about property being held in trust, but the Supreme Court of Connecticut talked in terms of areas where people gather, natural areas which are park-like, and people gathering to express their rights and exercise their constitutional privileges. That is not being interfered with. That is still appropriate. That is still possible. People can still do that. Pools have been ruled, including some by the Connecticut Appellate Court, the Connecticut Federal District Court, that pools are different from parks. Pools are different from beaches. Pools are different from what was dealt with in the basic argument that was outlined in the Brendan Leiden case. So we don't have that argument here, and I think to answer your question directly, I think it would be defensible.
okay. It would be so. Okay, from the legal point of view.
Yes, sir.
But if Joe, would you agree or not agree that in terms of can this board achieve? I guess there's two issues. The issue of taxpayer money being used to support to support this. But what I'm saying is, can we achieve the money aspect by charging a fee like New Canaan just did? And if it's an overcrowding issue, that's a separate issue. But we're being asked to vote on something, and the pool isn't even built yet. So how do we? I mean, I think
you need to back up a second, because I'm looking at the 2016 beach policy for New Canaan.
Yeah.
There's nothing, what you're talking about in this policy. They have a $450 family pass. They have an individual senior pass, that's $70. They have an individual youth pass at $265. They have an individual limited use pass, which means for a resident who just occasionally wants to go.
I'm just reading it.
It's $180. Nannies,
I'm reading in the paper.
guest pass.
I'm just telling you right here. New
This
Canaan,
came off their webpage.
Stanford Advocate. I'm just saying they just voted on this on August 30th. There's a big article on it. I'm just
Okay.
That's all.
So this is on their webpage. I downloaded this on 2/6/2.
It said the summer New Canaan Board of Selectmen approved a plan to sell 100 family passes to non-residents with a price of $500 per pass to help cover expenses of operating whatever. And then you have people arguing both
Doesn't
ways.
refer to that in their policy. I mean, it's not, this is why I downloaded it.
I tell you, I'm just
I'm
telling
more
you.
than happy to show it to you. I mean, so I,
And you didn't write that story.
so
forward
I, you know,
I'll forward this to you. It's in all the papers.
Well, I'll let you look at this. I mean, this is printed right off
I don't know what,
There it is.
here, read this. I'm just-
This is what they publicize on their webpage, okay? So, that's what it is, but, you know, it's fine that you can forward that to me, but I have no knowledge of that because I'm looking at their policy printed on their webpage on February.
Independent of Canaan, forget even if they did or didn't, I'm just reading this. What I'm saying is, could that be, in terms of the making up some revenue, would you consider, you know, charging a fee to is the issue going to be overcrowding and maintenance, or is it going to be money to help offset costs?
The issue is just strictly what Greenwich wants to do, because at the end of the day, there's been some interest in whether we would like to have residents and guests or have the open policy that we have had. So it's just what you prefer and what the Board of Selectmen will pass, because at the revenue, I would assume, between residents and their guests will make up the difference of what we need. Plus, we're going to have swimming lessons, we're going to have other activities in the pool, you know, that will generate revenue. We're going to have a new concession stand that's going to increase the revenue generation for the town. So the difference in the revenue of what we were paying, the revenue we were collecting with the old pool and what we're going to be, or the expenses that we were spending for the old pool and beach, and what we will be spending for the new pool and beach, the revenue will be generated through the policy that I proposed.
That's okay. That's one side of it. The other side, I guess, would be the
Sure. I mean, we have limitations by state law of how many people that we can put in the pool at one time. So it has a 300 maximum, and that includes the splash pad, the kiddie pool, and the main pool. There's a 300-person maximum use for the pool space. And that's set by the board, the state of Connecticut Health Department, based on the design.
But why can't, like with Greenwich Point, in terms of why the rush to form a policy when the pool is not built yet necessarily? We don't know if there's going to be this, I mean, I'm assuming it's going to be a beautiful pool, and it's going to, but why? So we're doing this based on the BET condition?
It's the condition.
I would go so far. It's not just the BET. There's a lot of people publicly at the hearings when we were seeking funding for this that said, why are you building a pool if you're going to open it up to the world? You know, this is a nice to have. It's not a need to have. And so Board of Selectmen, do your job and decide on how do you want that resource used. Sure. And so I think that's why we're here. I don't feel personally that we're doing this because we have a gun threat. I think it's our responsibility to make that judgment. And so I'd rather not be, follow their timeline so that we're not holding up the process that you have, because everyone's watching construction so carefully around here.
Well, this would be then, okay, but minimally, then I would suggest we don't vote on this today. I mean, I would like to hear from you. I mean, we don't normally vote on something. This is
Sure, we could have a special meeting on it.
I need to hear if they're going to come from both sides, and we'll get a lot from the side that yours. I mean,
I would be very clear. I'll listen to any Greenwich resident about it, but I really will discount any non-Greenwich resident because I don't represent them. I represent the people here in the town of Greenwich, and it's their money. And I'll gladly listen to both sides. If there are those who think we should have it open to build something for the world to use, listen to them. But the fact is, we're charged with providing services to Greenwich residents.
That's correct.
But I'll have another meeting, yeah. The other thing is we have to have another meeting because our meeting is scheduled for the 14th, which I think is before. Right, so we have to do a special meeting to address this so we don't fall out of sequence. But that's fine, we do that all the time. Agreed? We'll do a special meeting.
Sure. The purpose of the special
Okay.
meeting would be?
To give time for people who want to comment. So now this is out as what's proposed, but then people can say, well, gee, I like that. I mean, there may be people who say, well, gee, we think, why is it $8? You should be, you gave us some statistics.
I gave you some rationale about the $8.
I mean,
I
I
looked
thought
at
you-
other communities that charge guest fees, and that seems to be where we need to be. I mean, some had the $10 fee.
I
Most
thought
of them
you
are
did a
$8.
very good market analysis. Like you do at most things, it's a market. It's not just like you pulled it out of thin air.
can we get clarification on that $500 New Canaan thing?
Sure.
I mean, and just in terms of.
I mean, I can find out, but I would think they would have that in their policy.
I don't know what
But
to
we
tell
can
you.
look at
To
it,
have the
sure.
Board of Selectmen commenting in the paper about it, I don't know what to tell you.
It's okay.
I don't, I'm just reading it today. I have no idea.
Maybe we'll invite Rob Malazzi down. He likes to take a trek from New Canaan.
Smile.
Let me just add one comment
Sure.
to answer the question that Drew had. Drew, in the Brendan Leiden case, the court specifically said, "We conclude that Greenwich Point is a traditional public forum because it has the characteristics of a public park." That was the basic constitutional issue on which they made that decision. Courts in Connecticut, federal courts in Connecticut, have rendered decisions which make a distinction between a public forum such as a beach area and a pool. I won't bore you by reading the entire paragraph, but this one particular, it's the Presna case, it says, talking about the pool area, "This area is not a traditionally recognized forum for the exercise of First Amendment rights. Public forum status would be inappropriate as it would be inconsistent with the interests of government in overseeing the use of the property. The municipality has a significant interest in providing poolside safety, not to mention preserving a pleasant atmosphere for its paying patrons. A pool deck is a precarious place for unbridled free speech. Any disruption could distract the lifeguards and compromise safety." So the federal courts have drawn a distinction between a traditional public forum, such as the beach area, where people could have access, and a
Yes, but that's, I'm not a lawyer, but that's, okay.
Okay.
Sounds ridiculous. But okay, so, sorry, Joe? No, I know, you're ready to kill me. I'm trying to see how from a process point of view, how this is gonna work. So someone's gonna buy a pass, they're gonna know or not know if there's a pool there or not. They're gonna, I assume if they have a family, they're gonna come over to the pool and they're gonna be told they can't use it?
Well, what'll happen is that since the passes are being sold off-site for all of this,
Yeah.
when they go to one of the civic centers to purchase a pass, they'll have to identify the pass that they are requesting. So if it's a resident who wants to take someone to the pool, they'll say, "I need a resident pass, so I can take a guest to the pool. Otherwise, they'll ask for a regular day pass for the person that they're going to be accompanying, or if they're not accompanied by anybody, they'll ask for a day pass. If they're a non-resident, say, "I'd like to go to Greenwich Barn Park or Greenwich Point or Island Beach," the system will work exactly the way it works right now. They'll get a day pass. So the only difference is that it'll be screened at the Civic Center location so that it doesn't create that confusion at the pool beach at bar. People will know you have a pool pass, you're being accompanied by a resident, and you have a day pass to get into the beach and park, and you don't have a pool pass. So it'll be at the point of sale, they will know that.
And okay, and the person that doesn't, so if I have a family member that I want to bring to the pool,
Yes.
right, I have to be there, so I can't just drop them off. I have to be with them inside there with the pool
You have to accompany them, yes.
the entire time.
Yes.
Okay.
That's what other towns do too.
Okay,
yes.
so they have to stay there. Okay, and then for the just out of curiosity, they buy a non-resident or her buys a pass but can't use the pool, but the pool for some reason that day is just there's not a lot of people there. So even that, we're not talking a capacity factor. If there's 10 people using the pool, their family wants to see it. Use it. They're still not going to be able. It's not just a capacity.
They will not have. By the time they're at the park, they will not. They're not eligible to buy a pass at all, and we're not going to know that in advance. Obviously, we're going to have a policy. This is the policy. This is the resident and can have a guest as long as they're with them, and all others will go to the beach and the park. And we're not going to be selling, short-term passes at the pool location. So if we say we have half capacity and we can let other people in, we can sell them a pass at the park. It's the purpose that we've taken all of the point of sales away from the beach locations is because it's distracting. Sometimes it's confrontational because people are there, and sometimes so that all purchasing of guest passes are done off-site. It's served its purpose very well, so we don't have backups too many backups at Greenwich Point and Island Beach Dock and Barn Park.
What's the reason of the finance board conditioning a release of finance.
There's been a number of
on a
people who've
policy.
testified at various budget meetings that said that they wouldn't support the pool financially if the town were to open it up to everyone. So that's based on their testimony at the BET heard during various budget hearings. The BET and the Budget Committee. So they've heard these testimonies, and they put a condition to say, we want to see the pool policy.
But are they saying that, or are they saying that they want a non-resident policy? I mean, I'm trying to get that. So if we come back and say, this board, I'm not saying it's going to go, those are probably not, but say we did it, are they not going to release the funds? What are they really saying here?
They want the Board of Selectmen very clearly to set a policy.
Yeah, and if the policy doesn't agree, what are they
We
saying?
can't predetermine what the outcomes, we don't know. I mean,
Oh,
I
I
can't,
know.
I can't get
But all the
inside the heads of
testimony,
12
but all
people
of
on
the testimony at the various meetings that I attended, and I think maybe you've all attended more of them, were all talked about, residents stood up and talked about having a pool where residents could have a guest there.
Well,
And
yeah, their comment was very clear.
It was
Our
clear.
tax dollars are going to build a specific amenity. The amenity should be used by the people who are paying for it, rather than otherwise don't build it. I mean, to me, it's like schools. I mean, we build schools for Greenwich residents. If we have capacity, then why would we have people say, gee, you have capacity, I want to come to your school? I mean, there has to be some standard of use. I mean,
yeah.
Right.
So, I mean, this is the policy based on what we've heard so far in various
when it's
testimonies and
consistent
discussion.
with what other towns do. It's not like, I know we're special, but I mean, we're not that special when it comes to adopting something that says resources in the community in which they are housed are for the people who live there. So we'll have another meeting on this so that people can digest it and give comment. Email's good. So forth.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Joe, thank you. Smile.
So new business, the next item is coming to us is the approval of a resolution from the State Preservation Office, which is a declaration of preservation agreement for the old barn at Greenwich Point. So the Greenwich Point Conservancy, as we know, undertook the renovation of this as one of 2 projects, and in doing so was successful in getting a grant from the State Historic Preservation Office. The acceptance of the grant, the $500,000, is predicated upon putting a deed restriction on the improved property. And so there was considerable back and forth about the extent of that, what it really means. And so this document has to be approved by the Board of Selectmen and the RTM. So in fact, the Greenwich Point Conservancy can get the $500,000. Wayne, I don't know, I'm just giving the introduction to the State Historic Preservation Office Declaration of Preservation.
Yes.
I know your office worked very painstakingly with the Greenwich Point Conservancy and the folks up in the Historic Preservation Office to come to terms on the restriction agreement. And what we have before us is that result of that work.
That would be correct. I will say to you, Peter, that I've had some conversations with Al Manelli on this concept. And one suggestion, if I might, if you folks are going to be having a special meeting, I'm wondering if we could put this off today.
Sure.
Till I have a chance to sit down with him and with you on a couple of issues that he has raised, and put it on, if you would, on your special
Sure.
special
That's
meeting
fine.
agenda. Thank you.
No, that's fine, sure. Okay. That concludes new business. Appointments and nominations, do we have any today or no? No. Do you have any today, Drew?
No.
We did get several in. We did get notice that one of our renominations has chosen to not continue because they're pursuing a new position. So we'll have to go back. I think it was with the ZBA, Mr. Sertelman.
Yeah.
He withdrew, so we'll have to Maybe we could do some at the special meeting. That way we're not, because we'll have to set a date. Okay, so executive session. Is there a motion to go into executive session for purposes of discussing pending claims and litigation and possible settlement? I know that we have 3 property tax appeals as well as some pending litigation that is being presented for consideration.
So moved.
Seconded.
So 11:15.